Welcome, listener land. You have found the best podcast you've never heard of or never heard about. But, we're trying to fix this one continent at a time. You've reached to all the cars I've loved before. Your authoritative podcast on automotive nostalgia. The podcast where every car tells a story, every machine has a soul, and every car has a culture. I am Christian at carslove.com. He is Doug at carslove.com. Yes, those are our real names. My middle name, I had it changed to the at symbol. So my first name is Christian. My last name is Carslove. So the middle name is the at. He is Doug at carslove.com. And have you done all the paperwork to have your name legally changed to these email addresses, partner, or what?
It's in progress.
Maryland's in progress. Lovely.
Maryland's not as easygoing as Florida.
Oh, Florida's like another planet. Anything goes. I mean,
pretty much pet alligators, you name it.
Tigers, chimps.
Tigers,
you know it.
That's right.
So did you do anything fun today? Any ripping apart of your automobile? Any smoke testing at work? Any smoke testing of your engine?
Not today, but yesterday I did the jar test, where with the following the smoke test,
right,
which revealed a few loose or ill-fitting seals on my fuel injectors on my DeLorean. Mechanical fuel injection. So I did the jar test where I pulled out each fuel injector, put them in even-sized Gatorade bottles, and ran the fuel pump. Watched them, see that they were spraying, and then measured the equal-sized bottles. And to my surprise, they all came out well.
Fantastic. Yeah, the only jar testing we do in Florida involves moonshine, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
moving on,
today's moonshine.
Today's theme, the prologue, is going to be back to school. Yes, the podcast goes back to school. We're a little into the school year for any of us individually, but the podcast is going back to school. That's right. What was your favorite class? What did you like learning about? What carried forward for you? What did you do in the classroom? What did you touch in the classroom? I'm going to revisit that question here in just a little bit. So let's let the theme of the prologue simmer. But our new section that we have is, where are they now? Or what are previous guests up to recently? This also includes, yes, it's a tease, updates on shows that we have in queue that we can't bring to you. We're so excited about it. We have a bunch in the hopper that move into post-production, okay? And sometimes we sort of mention that as a little bit of a tease or an upcoming commercial. So, Doug, we have a lot going on here. I know that Tim, season 1 guest Tim, was at your house, and you guys were ripping apart your car in the garage, but there was some sailing. I heard there was some sailing going.
Well, Tim is a sailor, but one of our guests for a upcoming episode, Chris, Chris, who is the CEO of Red Kick,
big old red boat,
KIK. They do a lot of sailing. They have some connection to Finland, I think, with planting trees, but they partnered with Tuliketu Racing, amongst others. I think they've done the Volvo Ocean Race. These are serious sailors, and they did some racing in Finland.
Love that.
I had to read up on it. Tim, of course, is a sailor. I didn't have a chance to talk to him about it, but Chris Kalinski.
Exciting.
Team, they have fun while they're securing freights overseas. So
glad to hear
that freight. So.
Yeah. Great guy, interesting guy. And his episode will drop here in the coming weeks. And as always, great friend of the show, our BFF of the show. Winifred Freesia continues to post compelling content on her Instagram site. Check it out. Her episodes drop. Do you have that Instagram site handy? Freesia Brothers? FRECCIA.
Well, if you go to FreesiaBrothers.com, you'll get there.
She's the marketing genius behind all of it. Creative genius
Yep.
and marketing genius.
All things air-cooled.
Lovely.
In Greenwich, Connecticut.
Calls to action. Moving on. Let's see. So we continue to post on YouTube. So the YouTube presence continues to grow. Please check it out. Enjoy. And you will find this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Please follow and tell a friend. Download, follow, tell a friend. Those 3 things in that order. What else am I missing, partner? What else? The link tree is always a great way to kind of switchboard to us to find our different presences. linktr.ee/carslove. linktr.ee/carslove. And check us out there. Is there anything further on the calls to action before we revisit the show theme and introduce today's guest?
Nothing besides the common things. If you have a good guest, let us know. If you think you'd be a good guest, fill out the hit the button on our website to be a guest. You can also get there via the link tree. Yeah. And maybe you have a friend, maybe you have a neighbor, maybe you have a parent who you think would be a good guest.
And if you want to start a podcast, that's fine. We don't mind. Just please don't make it about automobiles so it doesn't conflict and compete with ours. So pivoting back to today's show theme, back to school, old school, back to school. And we mentioned at the top, what were your favorite classes? What were things that you liked? What were things that you did in school, in class? Did you ever touch anything in class? And I went back to my thinking, and I dissected a few things in high school, but nothing like today's guest, who I am super thrilled to introduce because they are involved, they will explain to you how, at an automotive program at Weber State University. So I am so pleased that it has brought McKenna and Brandon to our doorstep. Good afternoon. How are each of you doing?
Good. How are you?
And now that you're here, fantastic. Brandon, you there?
So good. It's glad to be here, guys.
Oh man, we're thrilled to have you. So please tell us a little bit more about Weber State, the program that you're involved with, and kind of how you came to its doorstep, how that happened.
Sure. So I'll get us started since I've been here a little bit longer. So I'm Brandon Stevenson. I'm one of the instructors here at Weber State University. And I was actually a student of the program in the early 2000s. So in about 2007, I came and I participated in the program. I was a technician at a General Motors dealership, and I was looking at different programs in the area. And Weber State had the ASEP program, which was an associate's through General Motors in automotive technology. So I took the program and decided to go on to get a bachelor's. And then I went and worked corporate industry for about 9 years, and then decided to come back home and start teaching here at Weber State, and loved it. So basically been around nearly 20 years now. It's great. Really love it.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you mentioned you got a bachelor's, is that correct?
That's right.
But they also there's a 2-year degree too, which I thought was so interesting, as well as continuing education. So there's really a glove to fit every hand. There's a program to fit where you are in your educational journey, where you are in your life. So that's interesting. Speaking of that, McKenna, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to the program and how you're enjoying the program?
So I came into the program about 2 years ago. I realized my passion of cars overweighed my passion of criminal justice, which was my original degree. Yeah. And I came back and went in full force. I am due to get my associate's degree in the spring, and I will continue on to my bachelor's degree.
Fantastic. Yeah. And if you want a little bit more information, again, we will link to the show notes on your, basically the way you found this recording, right? So your podcast streaming platform of choice. But PBS NewsHour, and this is how we first became aware of this program here at Weber State, was watching the PBS NewsHour. So if you're in front of a computer, type in PBS NewsHour. They have a set, pbs.com/NewsHour. They had a Rethinking College segment where they feature Weber State University. It's about a 7-minute segment. And let's see, it aired October 2024. So if you are young and listening in Utah and looking for an alternative to, I would say, traditional school, look at this, give this a chance, because McKenna, you walk into class and there's an engine lab. Is that correct? I mean, you can just pick up all these engine parts and turn them around and think about them and see how they fit like Legos, right?
Yes. It's a lot of fun, definitely, to be able to have the hands-on experience. That is probably one of my favorite pieces of the program. You get to touch, you get to mess with, and if you end up breaking something, you just fix it. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah. And the automotive program is in the same building as the computer science department, because as cars become more technologically advanced and more integrative, you really do have to become a bit of a computer technician to make the car go. I mean, what do you think, Brandon? Do you see that in your daily?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One of the big reasons that we changed location, so we were up in Ogden, Utah, and then we got this brand new facility about 4 years ago. One of the reasons that they decided to house us with computer science is for the reasons you just mentioned. And what's really interesting to me is a lot of our students actually get interested in computer science, so they'll dual major. So we'll have some students that are automotive technology majors and also science majors. Yeah, they get to those classes. It's really great.
Yeah. In the sign on the building, you'll see this in the piece at pbs.com/newshour. The sign on the building actually says computer and automotive engineering. It's a really interesting new campus, just a few years old. And so Doug reached out to Jessica Slater, the department chair. After he saw it, he was so impressed with the program. And Doug, tell us a little bit about that interaction.
Yeah. Just as you said, email said I had seen the show on PBS NewsHour, and I'd love to interview some people for our podcast. And she wrote back and gave us 3 names, Brandon being one of them. And here we are. And she's been very responsive, as has Brandon and his colleagues. And we decided to do things a little different, and we wanted to have an instructor along with a student, so we get both perspectives. And I'm going to give it away, but both of these students grew up with parents, dads, that are mechanics, and here they are. Right? It's pretty awesome. I love seeing that, the tradition carried on, and we'll talk more about that. But I know McKenna got started pretty early, and I'm sure Brandon as well. Yeah.
And we'll pivot to McKenna in just a moment. Wanted to throw out here that it was mentioned in the piece by the interviewer, Allie Rogan. So she used the word hybrid, which I thought was so interesting, because they're saying, all right, well, we take a traditional institution of higher learning, Weber State, and then they're bringing in kind of a trade school, a tech class, but they also help place jobs. So what about that appealed to you most, do you feel, McKenna, as you sought more information about the program and thought to enroll?
Definitely figuring out just what opportunities I could get through this program. Jessica has been nothing but helpful for finding things that will help me out to further my education. And she actually gave me a job through here that will help me towards my goals of owning my own shop. So she tailored a job specifically for me, training me to manage pretty much what I can through here.
She basically manages. She tells me what to do. It's great.
Love that. So that's something that I don't think was mentioned in the piece. So potential employers like Toyota, GM, and Chrysler obviously love to recruit at an institution like this because they have somebody who's certified, knows what's going on. You walk through the doorstep and you know how to rip something apart, which is wonderful. But if you want to start your own shop or go an alternative path, I think that's wonderful too. There are just so many options through this hybrid learning experience that they're giving you. And a big part of the piece was women in this non-traditional type learning setting. So could you talk about that a little bit, McKenna, on what your experience is, and do you see many people like you in that situation?
So yeah, there are a growing number of girls coming into the program. We are definitely trying to get more through the high schools. We're trying to
Yeah.
reach out to them. And through my experience being a woman in this program, it has been nothing but amazing. I get treated the same as any other student. But I also get better grades than other people, so I might get a little bit of favoritism. But I get the same exact treatment. I'm able to do what the guys can do as well. So it's been definitely very accommodating for women
Great
to come.
word.
Girls are usually better
Yeah.
at turning in assignments. That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
her grade's better.
Oh, yeah.
She's better at turning in.
Wonderful.
Amongst other things.
Yeah, I know Doug wants to get in here. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So McKenna, all the different parts of the cars, and we're going to talk about some of your cars and Brandon's cars, including where you guys started. There's some great stories. But what's your favorite class or favorite component in a car, or favorite system in a car that you enjoy working on and learning about?
Yeah, so one of my favorite components is probably the steering and suspension component. Me and my dad do a lot of that at home, and being able to do that here and learning more about it and being able to get in those conversations with my dad about how all these things are working, be able to ask him questions to where he's not looking at me like I'm a little like silly sometimes. But it definitely has just helped my education through the steering and suspension, just build upon what I've learned before and growing that even more.
That's awesome. Yeah, I bet you like to play with Legos too.
Oh yeah, I do.
That's the word on the street. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Legos. So
nice. That's it. Yep. You never know, parents. Your kids playing with Legos might be working on suspensions. Who knows in the future? They might go to Weber State.
Oh yeah,
it's a great program. And in fact, I think there are 2 steering and suspension classes, Brandon.
Yeah, we have 2 steering suspension classes, 2 brakes classes, engine mechanical, engine repair. That PBS special talked a lot about our electric and hybrid programs. So we do have electric vehicle and hybrid electric vehicle courses as well. The key part is we want our students when they graduate. So we do a certificate, an associate's or a bachelor's, and there's that continuing education certificate for those that already have an education or already have a career and want to come back. But we really want them to be able to graduate and be able to do something with that. So be able to go out and get a job. And that was one of the reasons that I really came and was highlighted to me, is that I could go get a job as a technician right now. And then I further got my bachelor's and I can still go back and be a technician. So those foundational skills that are taught in those classes are still pertinent in today's world.
Excellent. And I was just looking through our notes from before the podcast, and Weber has been around, or Weber, I don't know if it's Weber, certainly the program, automotive program, has been around for over 100 years. Is that correct?
1922 is the first time we started doing automotive classes at Weber. Weber State's been around since 1880s. They had a different name at the time, and we eventually became a state college and now a university. But yeah, since the 1920s, we've had an automotive program, again, teaching the workforce on how to service and repair vehicles.
Right. And they were brand new back then, and there was a bit of everything. And yeah, until Henry Ford came along, I think every car that came out was slightly different.
Yep.
So yeah, that's awesome. What a great history.
Now, is it true? I read somewhere that when Ford was starting with cars, he was initially interested in powering them with batteries, with that nascent technology. But then it was the rush of oil in, I think, Titusville that kind of came, cheap gasoline, and it moved towards it. Is there any truth to that, Doug or Brandon? And so it's more gasoline driven, but his
Let's-
initial druthers were battery powered.
Yeah, I can't speak for Ford, but there were a lot of electric cars around the, I don't know, 1918, 1920s, and they just didn't make it. They didn't have the range, right?
Yeah, right.
But
Yep, that was the big thing, was the
Brandon
range.
may know more.
Sorry. Yeah, so
Gotcha.
what's cool about looking at that history, and they were very popular in cities because no pollution, easy to start because it was and you could just drive. But as America changed and we didn't just live in big cities, we started to go out into the countryside. Those
Great
electric
point.
became less and less possible. You needed something that could go a little bit further.
Great point. Great point. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for walking us through your respective journeys in Weber State. But we're going to use a different kind of technology. We're going to step into the Wayback Machine, the time machine, and we're going to go back. And I want to hear how it all started for you, Brandon. What was that first car, and was it running at the time?
Oh, I love this question. So my first car was actually a 1979 Z28 Camaro. I know you guys can imagine it. Midnight blue, black, Z28. So it has the fender vents and the hood scoop. Gorgeous car. My dad bought it new in 79. He was working at a dealership, so he's a technician. Gave it to my mom. My mom blew it up. Good job, Mom. Got parked at my grandma's house, and every time we went to go see grandma, I would see this beautiful car that was just getting beat and weathered and all of those things, and just kept telling my dad, man, I love this car. This is the best thing ever. My dad ended up stopped being a technician and started teaching high school. And I was actually at the high school that I went to school to. And so one of the things that we got to do in class, I was like, Dad, let's rebuild this engine. Let's rebuild the transmission. Let's get working on this. So that's what we did. We rebuilt that Camaro, and me being the 16 and 15-year-old kid that I wanted to make as much power as possible. So it wasn't really streetable, but it's still loud. It's still fun. And it's actually here at Weber State. I just pulled it out of my trailer a couple of months ago to show my students that, yeah, you can build a project and have a project and hold on to it for all these years.
And holding on to it is really the neat, I think the accomplishment, finding a place for it. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Doug.
No. Yeah, no, it's great. So it's still streetable.
It wasn't really streetable then, not really now. Okay. She's just loud. She's more of a show car than a street car. But to make it more of a street car, I'd like to be able to drive it on the street. I put a mini spool in it in high school and all of those things, so it's really not most street friendly. But I've got a 5.3 LS and a 4L60E that I'm going to put into it, show the students along the way, doing that kind of conversion. Nice. And we're also going to go over that kind of the emissions and horsepower change. So going from this little small block Chevy, look what emissions we produce, looked how much power we could produce, and what can we do with a fairly stock LS 5.3. So it's really cool to be able to show students that with the equipment that we hear at Weber State, we've got a wheel alignment. We have got the 4-wheel dyno as well, and also our engine dyno to be able to do some of these tests and show the students.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be a fun project.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. So that was your first car, but not a daily driver, right? As you said.
Yeah, unfortunately,
still in the family. Yeah. So what was your daily driver, second car, if you will?
Yeah, so the car that I actually drove around all the time while I was just loving the Camaro was a 95 Beretta and Z26. So I like the Z family, apparently. My sister wrecked it, and it became parked. And because I couldn't really drive the Camaro on a daily basis, we looked at this like, well, why don't you take over the Beretta? So she rear-ended somebody. So it was a pretty easy fix. Just put a bumper, hood, fix the radiator, the core support. Right. And learned a little bit of those body things that I didn't learn on the Camaro. So being able to straighten some frame rails out and just do the body paint and all the repair on it was really good. And it was a really good driver, being a little 3.1 with a 4-speed auto on it.
Yeah. It could peel the wheels right off the line.
It could squeak them. Yeah.
Yeah. Christian and I have a close friend, and I always just remember this story of his dad renting a Corsica, the 4-door version, and came out to visit him at college, and he let our friend Adam, who was on the show, drive the Corsica home. And Adam's like, yeah, of course I I spun the tires.
Of course, I spun the tires.
Of course it got. I mean, yeah, we had fun. We went up to the, lined up on the white line just to help with the spin a little bit, lose a little traction. So great story. And so that was not your first Corsica, though. Sorry, Beretta. Here we are.
Yeah, not my only Beretta. So I had two of them. So that one I turbocharged. I built a turbo kit for it, but the problem with that 4T60 was they were pretty robust, but once you started putting boost to them, they would blow up. And for mostly daily, I didn't want to have to be rebuilding the transmission all the time. So I actually found a guy that had a Z26 that he had 5-speed swapped out in Nashville, Tennessee, or Knoxville. I think he was in Knoxville, actually. And then he put a 3.4 in it, so the slightly bigger 60-degree V6 in it. And I got that shipped out and ended up putting my turbo kit on that. I call it the purple Beretta, or Black Rose Metallic. And that one I turbocharged, head studded, cam, all of this stuff. So again, I seem to have a problem with making cars that are supposed to be a daily driver, not really dailyable anymore. I just like to make all the power.
So what happened to both those cars, actually?
So that white car I sold to a friend. Yeah, so the first was a white Z26, the one that my sister wrecked. Ended up selling it to a friend when I bought the purple one because my parents were saying, hey, we've got too many cars here as it is. So I sold the white one and then was driving the purple one with the turbo and stuff on it. And that was fun, going from 30 miles per gallon to 14. So that's kind of sad. But a couple of years later, that friend was having problems with that white Beretta. And I was like, hey, well, I'll buy it off you. He thought he needed a transmission. I had a spare transmission laying around. Did some troubleshooting on it. Found it was just a simple connector on the throttle position sensor that was actually failed, and fixed that for basically nothing. I had a spare connector around as well, and then sold it to a different friend and made a couple $1,000. So that was a really good thing.
Nice. And your friend's like, man, I should have just brought it to you to look at.
Yeah, should have just had you look at it. He's like, oh, that was mom. But yeah, it was
maybe that friend should have been in the program at Weber State.
Definitely.
Cool. And so what is now, I think you have a daily driver that you haven't modified, hopefully. What is your daily driver right now?
So my daily driver is a Tesla when it's working properly. So I've got a couple of Teslas. One in particular, I just had a cell that went out on it. But the rear-wheel drive one, I keep that as stock as possible. So just a little rear-wheel drive Model 3. And it does the job.
Yep. Yeah. And if you lose a cell on it, what are your options? Just curious. I think I've seen, obviously you could go give Tesla $25,000.
Yeah.
For a new module, right?
Yeah. So a whole battery is their repair procedure. They have 4 battery modules inside of that whole battery housing, and they don't sell individual battery modules. Each of those modules contain about 1,000 cells. There's a couple of guys online that'll take the cell out and then weld a new one in. That's not really good practice either. So Tesla's repair procedure is a whole battery. I'm trying to get a refurbished battery cell. So I've dropped the battery, I've opened it up, and I'm down just trying to source that one battery module.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, all for one little battery cell that has failed. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so getting is a refurb one that's been in an accident, probably, that the battery was not damaged. Yep, got it.
Yeah. So what's really popular with these Tesla batteries is they'll pull them out of the cars, a wrecked car or something, and then sell the modules out for EV backups or battery backups for homes.
Really?
So some of those companies will refurbish the battery with that in mind, like it's going to be a battery backup for a home, but you can purchase them and in the car. They're just really not a good procedure for a Tesla yet, so it's kind of a trial and error thing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, you're in a great place to do some of that, right?
Definitely. Learning a ton.
Yeah. Excellent. And what car, because obviously you're capable of fixing a lot of them, what car did you hate the worst and why?
Oof. I would say I bought this car off of my father-in-law. He bought it at auction. It was a 09 Impala LTZ. And it was a decent car, but it was just an auction car. It had a lifter tick when I got it. The transmission was slipping when I got it. I just needed something real quick, so I purchased it off of him, and it just became a money pit. Ended up having to replace the 3.9 in it, and then replace the 4T65 in it as well. So it wasn't Impala's fault. It was the previous owners just beat the living stuff out of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
That
Excellent.
happened.
Thank you. Those are some great stories, and the Z28 lives on to
It
this
does.
day.
That's the best part.
Yep.
That's
Hopefully
the
you can
best
share
part.
some pictures of it. Love to see it.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So McKenna, let's step in the way back for you and let's talk about how it all started. Was there an explorer to go exploring with in your past?
Yes, so I started out my 16-year-old self with a 2004 Ford Explorer that exploded. But when it didn't explode or cause me any issues, it was the funnest thing ever. Me and my family used to take it out on little road trips. It was during when COVID happened, so I couldn't hang out with friends. So my dad bought it for me for my 16th birthday and said, go nuts. So I would just ride around in that all the time. It's when gas was a little bit cheaper, so it didn't cost so much to drive around. But after it exploded in a Arby's drive-thru, yeah.
In an Arby's drive-thru.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
wait. Did it at least get you to the drive-thru window? Were you like 10 feet from it and hungry and you couldn't get the car? Or was it 10 feet past the window and at least you could mourn with your seasoned curly fries?
So I had just barely turned into the drive-thru. There was a car in front of me. I heard this really loud pop, and I look at my engine bay, and all you see is smoke coming out of the wheel wells. And my belt had slipped, so my power steering did not work. So I turned the car off, turned it back on, and fastly put it in reverse, pulled out of that drive-thru, parked in the parking lot, and there's a McDonald's right across from there. So all of these people at McDonald's were just seeing me bawling my eyes out, calling my dad, come help me. I don't know why my car is on fire. So
why is it smoking? Yeah. So we had to pivot past that, right? We weren't going to do any more exploders. We were going to move on to a Honda, right?
Oh yeah. So
Old reliable.
Reliable.
Yep. This one was a white 2001 Honda Civic LX. Her name was Jessie. She was getting a lot better miles to the gallon. And she was the car I took to college that had a head gasket issue.
Right on.
But luckily my dad could fix that, and I ended up driving that for 3 more years.
Gotcha. Now you named the car. You named it just okay. So it's Jessie. We have to be specific on the spelling, right? You know, I never thought about naming my car until we started this podcast. And I drive an Acura MDX. And so in honor of all you wonderful people who name your cars, I just start I named my MDX Maddox because of MDX. Yeah. Is that clever or stupid?
Oh, it's great. That's actually a really nice name.
No, I like these guests. Okay.
Sounds like a TV show, Maddox.
Yeah.
No, that's Matlock.
I get a Matlock.
Okay, let's move on. So there was another, after this lovely Civic, you liked it so much, you got another. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It was finally time for me to get a new car. About a year prior to me buying the green Honda Civic, the white one while I was driving through a code, I was wondering why it was running rough. And I ended up getting to an intersection to turn into a Home Depot, and the car just died. I had to push it out of the intersection into the Home Depot parking lot, and turns out my timing belt got torn through by the spring tensioner. Yeah. So the spring tensioner curled up into a ball and started tearing through the timing belt. Luckily, I was able to get it somewhere where I didn't get ran into. Called my dad.
Mm.
He came over. We ended up fixing it, and it had no other issues. We just replaced the water pump and the timing belt.
Nice.
Completely fine. But
That's a
it lived its life. So we got a new one for my trip to Vegas. I went to SEMA this year. And
Oh.
so we got this new car because it ran a lot better. It had a lot more power because going on hills with Jesse was a no-go. But we named the new one, the green one, Maverick. It is a 2001 Honda Civic EX.
Now why Maverick? Had you just seen Top Gun or something?
No, no. I don't know. I kind of just look at a vehicle and I'm like, this is going to be your name. And it just sticks. It works perfect for it.
I think your
I
dad
like that.
was me. My dad would always just tell me if I broke down, like, well, what'd you break? Fix it. And that was it. He wasn't me at the side of the road.
I broke something. Yeah. And I did it either at the Arby's parking lot or the Home Depot. So
Yeah,
Yep.
it's probably McDonald's in your case.
Oh.
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
So what was SEMA like? I just I think YouTube goes crazy during SEMA, and we're all
Doug's
watching.
jealous, by the way. Yeah.
What was it like behind the scenes? How many? I think you went with Weber, right?
Yes.
How many people went, or students and teachers,
So-
instructors?
The students, I think we had 25 students who ended up going, and then we had Scott Holland, Brandon, and Cade go with us, and it was huge. Apparently, they had over 160,000 people there with over
Jeez.
800 vendors.
Something like that. Yeah. It's crazy.
Goodness.
Yeah. We were there for 3 days and I didn't get through the entire thing. There's an outdoor portion. There's 3 halls that you can go through with an upstairs to 2 of them. And it's absolutely insane. It's crazy. It's so much fun though.
Did you meet any celebs while you're out there? Whether YouTube
So-
stars? I think of Richard Rollins, Gas Monkey Garage, because I know he's always out there.
We were hoping to see him, but we didn't go on the day that he was going to be unveiling the vehicle he brought. We
Okay.
ended up seeing the guys from Throttle. And then we saw the guys from Big Time, which
Yeah.
I had them shout out Brandon because Brandon is a huge fan.
I am.
Mm.
And we also seen Phil Swift, the Flex Seal guy, who,
Oh, wow.
yeah, my boyfriend was super excited to see him. Ooh.
Yeah. So, if you would have kept just the flex tape in the back of your car, maybe you could have gotten out of the Arby's drive-thru. There we go.
Could have.
Yep.
We'll never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Always keep a roll with you. Yeah.
Is that the first time Weber has taken students to SEMA?
No, we've been taking it for quite a few years. I don't
Okay.
know. if
Oh.
it's long,
That's cool.
but yeah, quite a while.
Okay, awesome. But first experience for you, McKenna?
Yes.
see that?
So
Okay.
I will definitely be going again next year.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. Very,
Christian,
very
we need to go.
Yeah, but the show is not open to the public, so you have to be sponsored by some institution or something, right?
Yeah, on Friday I saw a bunch of guys wearing a Friday experience tag. So I think for certain you can just on Friday.
Yeah, I think it's just
Oh.
Fridays.
Oh, I see.
Correct.
I
Which is
see.
not enough time, and probably a lot of the vendors have left by then, I would bet.
Yeah.
But that's
Definitely for the
that's how it
insiders,
is.
for the cool kids.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Maybe my next life.
You guys could sign up to be students at Weber, and then you could come as one of our students.
Look at this. What
There
a
we go.
perfect
Solution.
callback and tie-in. Yeah, so as we guide the podcast toward the off-ramp, I just want to say thank y'all so much for agreeing to be on the show. We had a fantastic time meeting you. We can't get enough of Weber State. And oh, by the way, Doug wanted me to throw in here that so what is their Doug, their YouTube presence that
Yeah.
we wanted to talk about?
They you
YouTube
guys have an
channel.
automotive YouTube channel as well. I heard about. I think it's called Weber Auto.
Yep, Weber Auto, one word.
Okay.
One of our professors, John Kelly, he started that probably 2008, 2007-ish is when he started doing that. And he just keeps adding more and more content to that.
Okay. Wonderful.
Check it out.
How much of the content all from within the school?
Yep. So everything is videotaped here at Weber State using our equipment. Yep.
Nice. Excellent. So yeah, for folks who want to see more about Weber and see hands-on program, that might be the best place to go.
Absolutely.
Certainly learn something for sure.
Yeah. And check them out. They have a program to fit so many different people. And I just want to thank you, Brandon and McKenna, for being on the show. It was a distinct pleasure meeting you. You represent your institution well. Indeed. And it was just a thrill to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hope to be on more of these. This was a lot of fun.
It was.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back. We're definitely going to have you guys back in a future season. I can't even remember what season we're on right now, but we just love having these conversations with fantastic people. So if you like what you've heard, you have just listened to the high revving, low mileage, late model, heard around the world. That's true. Authoritative podcast on automotive nostalgia. He is Doug at carslove.com. I am Christian at carslove.com. Yes, that's my real name. They were McKenna and Brandon. Please follow and tell a friend. If you like the show, check out our YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace. Just kidding. We're not on MySpace. But follow and tell a friend. Download, follow, tell a friend. Make sure you check out the link tree. All of our different presences are right there. linktr.ee/carsloved. It's a bit like the old yellow pages, but I refer to it as our switchboard. I'm sure we're going to see it at the next local car show. Thank you for listening. Keep the rubber side down, and we will see you next week.